The transport ship carrying Earth's delegation approached the massive structure floating in space. Nexus 7 was bigger than any human-made station. It stretched for miles in every direction, glowing with lights from 1,000 windows. This was where the Galactic Assembly met, where decisions affecting trillions of beings were made. Commander June stood at the viewport, watching the station grow larger. He wore his military dress uniform, pressed and perfect. His face showed no emotion, but inside he felt nervous. Today would decide humanity's future among the stars. Dr. Rena stood beside him, checking her datapad for the 100th time. She had prepared a presentation showing Earth's scientific achievements. Every discovery, every breakthrough was documented. She hoped it would be enough. Diplomat Sunho sat calmly in a corner seat. He had negotiated with difficult people before, but never aliens. Never beings who had traveled the stars for thousands of years while humans were still learning to make fire. He adjusted his tie and took a deep breath. The docking process took an hour. When the airlock finally opened, they were met by a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. It did not introduce itself. It simply gestured for them to follow. The corridors of Nexus 7 were enormous. The ceiling stretched high above, designed for species much larger than humans. The walls glowed with soft light. Strange symbols covered every surface. The human delegation walked quickly to keep up with their guide, their footsteps echoing in the vast space. They entered a massive chamber shaped like an amphitheater. 12 platforms circled the room, each one elevated and occupied by a different alien species. The humans were directed to a small platform in the center, positioned lower than all the others. It was clearly designed to make them feel small. Overlord Thex occupied the highest platform. He was a Rixian, covered in silver scales that reflected the chamber's light. His eyes were large and golden, and they looked at the humans with obvious disgust. He raised one clawed hand, and the chamber fell silent. "So these are the humans," Thex said. His voice was translated into English through their earpieces, but the contempt needed no translation. "The newest children to reach for the stars." Laughter rippled through the chamber, not polite chuckles, but open, mocking laughter. Marshal Kryn spoke next. She was a Mandorian. Humanoid, but covered in dark armor that seemed to be part of her skin. "I have reviewed their military capabilities. Their fastest ships take months to cross distances our vessels cover in days. Their weapons are chemical-based projectiles. They have no energy shields, no plasma cannons, no quantum disruptors." More laughter. A delegate from another species stood and spoke in a voice like grinding rocks. "They only left their own planet 60 years ago. 60 years! My species achieved interstellar flight 10,000 years before these creatures learned to make metal." Diplomat Sunho stepped forward. "Members of the Assembly, we come here not claiming to be your equals in experience or technology. We come asking for the chance to learn, to grow, to contribute what we can to the galactic community." "Contribute?" Thex's laughter boomed through the chamber. "What could you possibly contribute? Your science is primitive. Your technology is laughable. Your culture is barely unified. You have one small planet and think you are ready to join civilizations spanning hundreds of worlds?" Dr. Rena activated her presentation. Holographic images appeared in the air, showing Earth's achievements. The first fusion reactor, the discovery of faster-than-light travel, medical advances that extended human lifespan, mathematical proofs that solved centuries-old problems. The aliens watched with bored expressions. One delegate appeared to fall asleep. "These achievements," another alien said, speaking slowly as if to a child, "were accomplished by most species before they developed written language. You show us cave paintings and expect applause." Commander June's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. He had learned in military training to observe before acting. He watched the aliens carefully. Behind their mockery, he saw something else. The way Thex's eyes narrowed when viewing humanity's fastest ship. the way Kryn leaned forward when the weapons were displayed, the way several delegates whispered to each other during the scientific presentation. They were afraid, hiding it beneath contempt, but afraid nonetheless. The vote was quick. Humanity would be granted observation status. They could maintain stations around their own planet. They could colonize their own moon and nearby planets in their solar system. But they could not venture beyond. Any human vessel crossing the invisible boundary surrounding Earth's solar system would be considered hostile. "You may watch and learn," Thex announced. "Perhaps in another 1,000 years, when you have matured, you may apply again. Until then, stay in your nursery. The galaxy is for grown civilizations." The chamber erupted in laughter again. The human delegation was dismissed without ceremony. They walked back through the endless corridors in silence. Only when they were safely back on their transport ship did anyone speak. "That was humiliating," Dr. Rena said quietly. She had spent months preparing that presentation. Years of humanity's greatest achievements, dismissed in minutes. "It was instructive," Commander June replied. He moved to the viewport, watching Nexus 7 shrink as they pulled away. "They fear us." Sunho looked at him with surprise. "Fear us? They just laughed at everything we showed them." "Exactly," June said. "They laughed too much. They went out of their way to mock us. Did you notice how many of them kept looking at our rate of advancement? We went from the first airplane to faster-than-light travel in less than 2 centuries. It took most of them thousands of years." "So what if they fear us?" Rena asked. "They have all the power. They control the galaxy. We're trapped in our own solar system." "For now," June said softly. "But fear is interesting. Fear means they see something in us that threatens them. They have technology, yes. They have thousands of years of advancement. But we have something they don't." "What's that?" Sunho asked. "Hunger," June replied. "They've reached the top. They're comfortable. They spend their time protecting what they have, not reaching for what they could become. We're still climbing. We still dream of more." The transport ship activated its faster-than-light drive. Reality twisted around them as they jumped toward home. Earth was 6 weeks away at their current speed. 6 weeks to report the humiliation. 6 weeks to decide what came next. Commander June stared at the stars stretching past the viewport. The aliens had tried to cage humanity. They thought they could keep Earth locked away, safe and controlled. They had made a mistake. A terrible mistake. Humans had spent their entire history overcoming impossible odds. They had survived ice ages and plagues. They had built civilizations from nothing. They had split the atom and touched other worlds. Every time someone said humans could not do something, humans proved them wrong. The Galactic Assembly had just told humanity to stay small, stay weak, stay controlled. June smiled grimly. In trying to keep humanity down, the aliens had given them the greatest motivation possible. Nothing drives humans forward like being told they cannot advance. The journey home was long, but Commander June did not sleep. He was already making plans, already thinking of ways to turn this defeat into victory. The aliens thought this was the end of humanity's ambitions. It was only the beginning. 10 years passed slowly for humanity. Earth's population grew restless, confined to their small corner of space. They could see the stars but could not reach them. It felt like being locked in a room with a window showing paradise outside. The colony on Mars expanded rapidly. 5 million people now called the Red Planet home. The asteroid belt became a center of mining and industry. Stations orbited every major planet in the solar system. Humanity built everything they could within their cage, but it was still a cage. Captain Jiho commanded a patrol ship near Jupiter's orbit. She was young for a captain, only 32, but she had proven herself capable. Today she was bored. Every day was the same. Watch the boundary. Make sure no human ships crossed it. Watch for the alien patrol vessels that reminded everyone who was in charge. "Captain, I have the Mandorian patrol on sensors," her navigator said. "Same ship as always. They're just sitting there on the other side of the line." Jiho nodded. The aliens sent ships to watch the Watchers. It was insulting. But there was nothing they could do about it. The Mandorian vessel was 10 times bigger than her ship and carried enough firepower to destroy Earth's entire fleet. On the planet below, Engineer Bora worked in a secret facility built into an old lava tube. The official record said this was a geological research station. In reality, it was something much more important. She stood before a massive engine, running final calculations on her datapad. The design was radical, completely different from anything humanity currently used. It was based on theories the Galactic Assembly said were impossible. "How long until we can test it?" asked Dr. Nari, walking up behind her. 3 months, Bora replied. "Maybe 4. We need to be sure. If this fails, we start over from nothing." Nari nodded. She understood. Project Phoenix was humanity's secret hope. Dozens of facilities across the solar system worked on technologies the aliens claimed could not exist. New engines, new weapons, new ways of thinking about physics itself. They worked in secret because they had to. The aliens monitored all public communications. They watched Earth's progress carefully, ready to step in if humanity advanced too quickly. On Earth, diplomat Sunho met with world leaders in a bunker deep beneath the surface. They met in person, never speaking about certain topics over any communication system that might be monitored. "The population is getting angry," the African Union representative said. "We've been locked in our own solar system for a decade. People want answers. They want action." "Action means war," Sunho replied calmly. "War means extinction. We need more time." "How much more time?" demanded the European representative. "My people are ready to fight now." "Our people would lose," Sunho said firmly. "The Assembly has thousands of worlds, billions of ships. We have one planet and a few hundred vessels. It would not even be a battle. It would be an extermination." The room fell silent. Everyone knew he was right. Commander June, now promoted to Admiral, spoke for the first time. "We need 5 more years. 5 years and Project Phoenix will be complete. Then we will have options." "5 years of sitting quietly while they laugh at us?" someone asked. "5 years of preparing," June replied. "5 years of building strength they do not know we have." The meeting ended without resolution. It always did. Humanity was divided between those who wanted peace and those who wanted war. Neither side had a good answer. Far from Earth, the research vessel Discovery orbited Jupiter's moon Europa. The crew of 300 scientists studied the ocean beneath the moon's ice. It was peaceful work, far from politics and frustration. Dr. Hyun stood at the sensor station, watching strange readings from beneath the ice. "There's something down there," she said to her colleague. "Something generating heat in patterns I've never seen." "Alien?" he asked. "Maybe. Or maybe just a weird geological formation. I want to send a probe deeper." She adjusted the controls. The probe descended through kilometers of ice, sending back data. The heat signatures grew stronger, more complex, almost like they were responding to the probe's presence. "This is incredible," Hyun whispered. "This could be the discovery of the century. We need to report this immediately." But the communication system was not working. They were too close to the boundary, and something was interfering with their signals. The ship drifted slowly, pulled by Jupiter's gravity into a slightly different orbit, an orbit that crossed the invisible line. On the Mandorian patrol ship, alarms sounded. Marshal Kryn herself was present for this rotation. She looked at the tactical display and saw the human research vessel crossing the boundary. "They dare to violate the restrictions," she said coldly. "Open fire." Her subordinate hesitated. "Marshal, it appears to be a research vessel. No weapons. They may have drifted accidentally. The law is clear, Kryn replied. Any vessel crossing the boundary is hostile. Fire! The Mandorian ship's weapons charged with a sound like thunder. 3 bolts of plasma, each one carrying enough energy to vaporize a city, crossed the distance in seconds. The Discovery never knew what hit them. The ship simply ceased to exist, torn apart at the molecular level. 300 scientists, 300 people studying ice and water and ancient mysteries, gone in an instant. Captain Jiho saw it happen on her sensors. She was too far away to help, too far away to even warn them. She watched the Discovery's signal vanish from her screen and felt her heart turn to ice. "Get me a channel to Mars Command," she said quietly. "Priority Alpha. Tell them we just lost the Discovery." The news reached Earth within hours. 300 dead. Killed for crossing an invisible line they probably did not even know they had crossed. The public outcry was immediate and enormous. Protests erupted in every major city. People demanded action, demanded justice, demanded war. Diplomat Sunho appeared before the assembly again, this time via transmitted message. "You murdered 300 innocent people, scientists, researchers. They posed no threat to anyone. They were studying a moon. How can you justify this?" Overlord Thex appeared on the screen, his golden eyes showing no emotion. "The law was clear. All human vessels must remain within the designated zone. Your people violated this law. The consequence was also clear." "They drifted accidentally," Sunho said, his voice shaking with rage. "Their communications were malfunctioning. They didn't even know." "Ignorance of the law is no excuse," Thex replied. "Consider this a lesson. Follow the rules or face the consequences. Be grateful we did not extend the punishment to your Mars colony." The transmission ended. Earth was left to mourn and rage in equal measure. In the secret facility on Mars, Engineer Bora watched the news with tears streaming down her face. She had known people on the Discovery, good people, brilliant people. She turned back to her work with new determination. The engine before her represented hope. Hope for freedom, hope for justice. "How long now?" Dr. Nari asked softly. "As long as it takes," Bora replied, "but not one day longer. We work around the clock. We finish this." Admiral June stood in a cemetery on Earth, watching 300 graves being dug. They had no bodies to bury, but they would have graves anyway. Markers to remember. He had been right about the aliens fearing humanity, but he had underestimated their cruelty. They would kill to maintain their power. They would murder innocents to prove a point. That changed everything. June made a decision that day. Project Phoenix would continue, but it would be joined by Project Titan. New weapons, new tactics, new strategies specifically designed to fight enemies with superior technology. If the Galactic Assembly wanted to treat humanity as children, they would learn that even children could be dangerous when pushed too far. The galaxy had just made its greatest mistake. They had given humanity a reason to hate them, a reason to fight them, a reason to never, ever stop working toward the day when the cage would be broken. 300 graves. 300 reasons to remember, 300 names that would not be forgotten. The aliens thought they had taught humanity a lesson about obedience. They had actually taught humanity a lesson about necessity, about survival, about what happens when you take away hope. Humanity would remember this day. They would remember these names, and one day they would make sure the galaxy remembered them too. The first case appeared on Rixos Prime, home world of the Rixian Confederacy. A merchant returned from a trading voyage complaining of headaches. Within a day, he could not stand. Within 3 days, he could not remember his own name. Within a week, he was dead. The doctors performed an autopsy and found something horrifying. The disease had destroyed his nervous system piece by piece. Every neural pathway showed signs of systematic breakdown. It was as if something had carefully disassembled his brain cell by cell. They called it neural cascade syndrome. Within a month, 10,000 cases appeared across Rixos Prime. Within 3 months, the number reached 10 million. Overlord Thex called an emergency session of the Galactic Assembly. His silver scales, usually bright and shining, looked dull. His golden eyes held something that had not been there before: fear. "The plague is spreading faster than we can track it," he reported to the other species. "Our best medical facilities cannot slow it. Our genetic specialists cannot identify its origin. Every treatment we attempt fails within hours as the disease adapts." "Surely this is a Rixian problem," suggested a delegate from the Carthian Empire. "Your species has always been prone to genetic instability." "It was a Rixian problem," Marshal Kryn interrupted. "Until yesterday, when the first cases appeared on Mandor. We now have 500 confirmed infections." The chamber erupted in worried conversation. If the disease could jump between species as different as Rixians and Mandorians, it could infect anyone. Within weeks, the truth became clear. This was not a normal plague. It spread through methods that made no sense. Ship crews who had no contact with infected worlds became sick. Stations with perfect quarantine protocols reported outbreaks. The disease appeared spontaneously in populations that should have been safe. The Galactic Assembly's best scientific minds gathered on Nexus 7. Thousands of researchers from 12 different species worked around the clock. They studied samples, they ran simulations, they tested millions of potential treatments. Nothing worked. Every cure they developed would function for hours, sometimes days. Then the plague would adapt and become immune. It was as if the disease could predict what they would do and evolve countermeasures before the treatments were even deployed. Dr. Mina watched the news from Earth with growing horror. She was humanity's leading expert on infectious disease. She had spent 20 years studying Earth's worst plagues and developing defenses against them. The numbers coming from alien space were staggering. 1 trillion dead, then 2 trillion. Then 5 trillion. Entire planets going silent as their populations succumbed. The Galactic Assembly was watching its civilization collapse in real time. "They need help," she said to Admiral June during a secure briefing. "They killed 300 of our people for crossing an invisible line," June replied coldly. "Why should we help them?" "Because 5 trillion beings have died," Mina said firmly. "Yes, their governments are cruel. Yes, they imprisoned us. But most of those dying are innocent people. Children, families. They did not vote to kill our scientists." June was silent for a long moment. "Even if we wanted to help, they have not asked. Their pride will not allow them to beg assistance from primitive humans." He was right. Despite the mounting death toll, despite the complete failure of every attempted cure, the Galactic Assembly did not contact Earth. To ask for help from humanity would be to admit that the youngest species in the galaxy might know something they did not. On Rixos Prime, Overlord Thex sat in his private chambers watching reports from across his empire. 50 billion dead on the homeworld alone. Hundreds of billions across the Confederacy. His own daughter was now infected. He had watched her go from a brilliant, vibrant person to someone who could barely speak. The doctors gave her 3 weeks to live. His aide entered quietly. "Overlord, there is a suggestion from the Scientific Council. They ask permission to contact Earth." "Earth?" Thex looked up in surprise. "The humans?" "Yes, Overlord. Some researchers note that humans evolved on a world with extremely aggressive pathogens. Their immune systems are considered remarkably adaptable. It is possible they might see something we have missed." Thex felt rage and hope warring inside him. The idea of begging help from the species he had mocked, the species he had imprisoned, was almost unbearable. But his daughter was dying. His people were dying. "Contact Earth," he said quietly. "Request their assistance." The message reached diplomat Sunho at midnight. Earth time. He read it twice to make sure he understood correctly. The Galactic Assembly was requesting humanitarian assistance from humanity. Not demanding, not ordering, requesting. He called an emergency meeting of Earth's leadership. The debate was fierce. Some wanted to refuse outright. Others wanted to demand concessions before helping. A few argued for unconditional assistance. Admiral June surprised everyone by supporting immediate help. "They wronged us," he said, "murdered our people, imprisoned us. But we have a chance to prove what humanity truly is. We can show them that we are better than they are, that we do not let innocent people die to make a political point." Dr. Rena agreed. "Besides, if this plague is as bad as the reports suggest, it could eventually reach Earth. Better to fight it there than here." The vote was close, but humanity decided to offer assistance, with conditions. Diplomat Sunho composed the response carefully. Earth would send its best medical experts to help fight the plague. In return, the Galactic Assembly would grant humanity full freedom of movement and provide complete access to all medical data. The response came back within hours. The Assembly agreed to everything. Dr. Mina assembled a team of 20 specialists, virologists, immunologists, geneticists, the best humanity had to offer. They boarded a fast ship and departed for Nexus 7. The journey took 2 weeks. During that time, another 1 trillion beings died. The plague was accelerating, spreading faster than even the worst projections predicted. When the human team arrived at Nexus 7, they were met with a sight they never expected. Overlord Thex himself waited at the docking bay. The proud leader of the Rixian Confederacy stood before them with his head bowed. "Thank you for coming," he said simply. "Please help us." Dr. Mina felt a chill run down her spine. This was not the arrogant alien who had mocked humanity a decade ago. This was a desperate father watching his civilization die. "Show us everything you have," she said. "Every data point, every failed treatment, every scan and sample. We'll need complete access." "You have it," Thex replied. "Anything you need." "Everything we have." The human team was taken to the main research facility. What they saw shocked them. The alien scientists had been working on the problem brilliantly. Their analysis was thorough. Their treatments were sophisticated. Their technology was far beyond anything Earth possessed. But none of it worked. Dr. Mina studied the data for 3 days straight, barely sleeping. She called in specialists from her team, asking questions, testing theories. Something about this plague was wrong. It was too perfect, too adaptive. On the 3rd night, she made a connection. She pulled up files showing how the plague responded to treatments. The patterns were too organized, too precise. "This isn't a natural disease," she announced to her team. "It's a weapon. Someone designed this." The room fell silent. If she was right, they were not fighting a plague. They were fighting a designer bioweapon created by a civilization that had understood biology better than any species currently alive. "Can we fight it?" one of her team members asked. "I don't know," Mina replied honestly. "But we better figure it out fast. Because if this thing was designed to be incurable, we might be looking at the end of all intelligent life in this galaxy." Outside the facility, the plague continued its work. Silent, efficient, unstoppable. Or so it seemed. The Galactic Assembly chamber was half empty. Many delegates had died from the plague. Others were trapped on quarantined worlds, unable to travel. Those who remained looked diminished, their earlier arrogance replaced by hollow fear. Diplomat Sunho stood before them, but this time, he was not on a lower platform. The assembly had quietly moved the human delegation to equal height with the others. No announcement was made, but everyone noticed. "We have reviewed your medical data," Sunho began. "Our team has been working with your scientists for 3 weeks now. We have conclusions to share." Marshal Kryn leaned forward. Her dark armor looked duller than before. She had lost her entire family to the plague. "Please, tell us you have found something. Anything." Sunho gestured, and Dr. Mina appeared on the holographic display. She looked exhausted. "The plague is not a natural disease," she said bluntly. "It is a bioweapon, probably ancient, designed specifically to defeat any conventional medical response. Every time you try to cure it, the weapon analyzes your approach and adapts." "We suspected as much," an alien scientist said wearily. "But knowing what it is does not help us fight it." "Actually, it does," Mina replied. "Because once we understood it was designed, we stopped trying to cure it directly. Instead, we looked at how it works. And we found something interesting." She brought up a detailed scan showing the plague at the cellular level. "The weapon is sophisticated, but it has limitations. It adapts to external treatments very effectively, but it does not adapt well to internal immune responses. Specifically, it struggles against certain types of aggressive, adaptive immune systems." "We all have immune systems," Overlord Thek said quietly. His daughter had died 2 days ago. He looked like he had aged a century. "They have all failed." "Your immune systems are very advanced," Mina explained, "but they are also very specialized. Your species have been genetically engineering yourselves for thousands of years. You have made your immune systems perfect for fighting known threats. But in doing so, you have lost the ability to adapt to completely unknown ones." She paused, knowing her next words would be difficult for them to hear. "Your immune systems are like master craftsmen who have perfected a single technique. Humans, by contrast, have immune systems like street fighters. Messy, aggressive, adaptable. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us in every possible way. Our immune systems learned to fight dirty and adapt quickly." "Are you saying human immune systems could fight this plague?" asked a Carthian delegate with barely concealed hope. "We believe so," Mina said carefully, "but we have not tested it yet. We would need to expose a human volunteer to the plague to be sure." The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Sunho let them talk for a moment before speaking. "Before we discuss testing, we need to discuss terms." The room fell silent. Every alien eye turned to him. "Terms?" Thex repeated slowly. "You would negotiate while we die?" "You negotiated boundaries while you murdered our people," Sunho replied evenly. 300 scientists killed for crossing a line. You said it was the law. You said ignorance was no excuse. You said we should be grateful you did not kill more." The chamber was absolutely silent now. "We are willing to help you," Sunho continued. "We will test our immunity. We will work to develop a treatment. We will save your civilizations if we can, but not for free. And not without changes." Marshal Kryn stood, her face twisted with anger and desperation. "Name your price." Sunho pulled out a data tablet and read from it. "First, immediate and permanent removal of all restrictions on human travel and expansion. Second, full membership in the Galactic Assembly with equal voting rights. Third, access to all scientific databases and technologies currently restricted to member species." He paused, then continued. "Fourth, a formal apology broadcast to every world in the Assembly acknowledging the wrongful deaths of the 300 scientists. Fifth, construction of a memorial station at the location where they died, maintained in perpetuity by the Assembly." "Is that all?" asked Thex bitterly. "No," Sunho said. "Sixth, reparations to the families of those killed. Seventh, a complete restructuring of the Assembly Charter to prevent any species from being imprisoned or restricted again. And eighth, a formal acknowledgement that humanity possesses knowledge and capabilities that the so-called advanced species lack." "You ask us to humiliate ourselves," Kryn said quietly. "We ask you to tell the truth," Sunho replied. "You are not superior to us. You are older. That is all. Age does not equal wisdom. Technology does not equal intelligence. You imprisoned us because you feared us. You mocked us to hide that fear. Now you need us, and you must face the reality you tried to deny." One of the other delegates spoke, an ancient being whose species was among the oldest in the galaxy. "If we agree to these terms, what guarantee do we have that you can actually help us?" "None," Sun Ho admitted. "We believe we can help. We have theories and data to support that belief. But we cannot guarantee success. However, you have no other options. Your own efforts have failed completely. You can accept our terms and have a chance, or refuse and watch your civilizations end." The assembly requested time to deliberate. Sun Ho and his delegation were escorted to a waiting area. Hours passed, then a full day. Earth's team waited patiently, knowing the aliens had to process not just the practical terms, but the psychological ones. They had to admit they were wrong. They had to bow to a species they had considered primitive. Finally, they were called back to the chamber. Overlord Thex stood at his platform. He looked smaller than before, his pride visibly broken. "We accept all terms," he said. Each word seemed to pain him. "The restrictions on human travel are lifted immediately. Full assembly membership is granted. All databases will be opened. The apology will be broadcast. The memorial will be built. Reparations will be paid." He paused, struggling with the final admission. "And we formally acknowledge that humanity possesses knowledge and capabilities that we lack. We were wrong to mock you, wrong to imprison you, wrong to kill your people. We beg your forgiveness and your help." The words were transmitted across the galaxy. Billions of beings heard the Galactic Assembly, the ancient powers that had ruled for millennia, apologize to humanity. Sun Ho felt no triumph, only sadness. "Thank you for your honesty. Dr. Mina and her team will begin testing immediately." In the medical facility, Dr. Mina prepared for the most important test of her life. A volunteer from her team, a young researcher named Hyon, had agreed to be infected with the plague. "Are you sure?" Mina asked him one last time. "Someone has to," Hyon replied calmly. "If this works, we save trillions. If it fails, at least we tried." They injected him with a carefully controlled sample of the plague. Then they waited, monitoring his vital signs constantly. For the first day, nothing happened. Then Hyon developed a fever. Scans showed the plague beginning its work, attacking his nervous system just as it had with alien victims. But something different happened. Hyon's immune system responded aggressively. White blood cells attacked the infection with unusual violence. The plague tried to adapt, changing its structure to evade the immune response. And the human immune system adapted right back, faster than the plague could change. It was like watching a battle at the cellular level. The plague, designed to be unstoppable, was meeting something it had never encountered before. An immune system that was just as adaptable, just as aggressive, and far more experienced at fighting dirty. After 3 days, Hyon's fever broke. After a week, all traces of the plague were gone from his system. He had survived. The medical facility erupted in cautious celebration. It was possible. Humans could fight the plague. Now they just had to figure out how to save everyone else. Dr. Mina returned to the assembly chamber and delivered the news. The test was successful. Human immune systems can defeat the plague. Now we need to develop a treatment that can give your immune systems the same capabilities. "How long will that take?" Thex asked desperately. "I do not know," Mina admitted. "But we will work as fast as we can. You have given us everything we asked for. Now we will give you everything we have." Outside, the plague continued killing. But for the first time since it began, there was hope. And humanity had proven beyond any doubt that they belonged among the stars. Dr. Mina stood before a holographic display showing the structure of human DNA. Around her, alien scientists watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to disgust. They were about to attempt something that had never been done before, something that many of them considered unthinkable. "The problem is simple," Mina explained, pointing to the display. "Your immune systems are too specialized. Ours are more adaptive. To save you, we need to teach your immune systems to function more like ours." A Rixian scientist raised an objection. "You propose genetic modification, incorporating human DNA into our genomes. This is contamination of our species." "This is survival," Mina replied firmly. "You can keep your genetic purity and die, or you can accept help and live. The choice is yours." Dr. Rena worked alongside Mina, analyzing the genetic differences between humans and the various alien species. The task was enormous. 12 different species, each with completely different biology, all needing customized treatments. "We cannot just copy-paste human genes into alien bodies," Rena explained to her team. "We need to identify the specific mechanisms that make human immune systems adaptive, then figure out how to translate those mechanisms into each alien species' biology." The work was complicated by resistance from some alien scientists. They had spent thousands of years perfecting their species through genetic engineering. The idea of adding human DNA felt like a step backward. Dr. Nari arrived from Earth with additional support. She was a physicist, not a biologist, but she brought a different perspective to the problem. "Stop thinking of this as biology," she told the research team one night when they were stuck on a particularly difficult problem. "Think of it as information processing. The plague is a program designed to defeat conventional antivirus software. Human immune systems are like adaptive AI that can learn and respond to completely new threats." Her insight helped them break through several barriers. They began modeling immune responses using quantum computers, simulating millions of scenarios to identify the most effective approaches. Meanwhile, the death toll continued to climb. 10 trillion dead across the galaxy. Entire worlds going silent. The pressure on the research team was immense. Engineer Bora arrived from Mars with a device she had designed. It was a nanoscale delivery system that could transport genetic modifications directly to specific cells in the body. It was technology from Project Phoenix, originally designed for completely different purposes. "This can deliver the treatment more effectively than any injection," she explained. "The nanobots will seek out immune system cells and apply the modifications directly. It should be more efficient and less painful than conventional methods." The team integrated her design into their treatment protocol. Every advancement helped, but they were running out of time. Overlord Thex visited the research facility personally. He looked terrible. The plague had taken almost everyone he loved. His empire was collapsing. He stopped by Mina's workstation, watching her work in silence for several minutes. "Will it work?" he asked finally. "I believe so," Mina replied without looking up from her microscope. "But belief is not certainty. We are working in completely uncharted territory." "My people are dying," Thex said quietly. "I made so many mistakes. I mocked your species. I ordered restrictions that imprisoned you. I allowed the murder of your scientists. I thought we were superior. I thought age meant wisdom." He paused, his voice breaking. "I was wrong about everything. And now my arrogance has cost me my family, my people, perhaps my entire civilization." Mina finally looked at him. She saw not a proud alien overlord, but a broken man who had lost everything. "We all make mistakes," she said gently. "What matters is what we do next. You accepted help when your pride wanted to refuse. You agreed to our terms when everything in you wanted to fight. That took more courage than you know." "It took desperation," Thex replied. "Courage and desperation often look the same," Mina said. "Now let me get back to work. Your people need this cure, and I am not going to let them down." After 6 weeks of continuous work, the team had their first viable treatment. They had tested it on human volunteers, on computer simulations, on tissue samples. Everything indicated it should work, but there was only one way to be sure. A Rixian volunteer named Keln stepped forward. He was young, only recently infected. The plague was in its early stages, which gave him the best chance of survival. "I trust you," he told Dr. Mina as they prepared the injection. "You came here to help us. You could have refused. You could have watched us die after what we did to your people. But you are here. That means something." The injection took only seconds. The nanobots entered his bloodstream and began their work, seeking out immune cells and delivering the genetic modifications. Then came the hard part: waiting. For the first 12 hours, nothing happened. Keln's condition remained stable. The plague continued its advance through his nervous system, but no worse than before. Then his body began to fight back. The modified immune cells started attacking the plague with new aggression. The battle was visible in real time through their medical scanners. Enhanced white blood cells swarmed the infected areas, adapting and responding in ways Rixian cells never had before. The plague tried to evolve, but the modified immune system evolved faster. It was working exactly as they had hoped. After 3 days, Keln's fever broke. After a week, the plague was completely eliminated from his body. He had survived with only minor neural damage that would heal over time. The research facility erupted in celebration. Aliens and humans embraced, all differences forgotten in the moment of triumph. They had done the impossible. They had defeated a plague designed to be unbeatable. But the celebration was short-lived. Keln was one person. They needed to save trillions. The team worked frantically to scale up production of the treatment. Facilities across the galaxy were converted to manufacture the nanobots and the genetic modifications. It was a massive undertaking requiring coordination across multiple species and thousands of worlds. Marshal Kryn took charge of distribution, using her military logistics expertise to create delivery networks. Ships carried the treatment to infected worlds. Medical teams administered it to as many people as possible. The survival rate was not perfect. About 30% of patients died during the treatment, their bodies unable to handle the genetic modifications. It was a terrible price, but better than the alternative. Without treatment, the death rate was 100%. Slowly, painfully, the tide began to turn. The plague's advance slowed, then stopped, then reversed. Worlds that had been declared lost began reporting survivors. The treatment was working on a galactic scale. During this time, something unexpected happened. The different species began working together in ways they never had before. Rixians and Mandorians, ancient enemies, coordinated relief efforts. Carthians and Velkari, who had not spoken in centuries, shared resources. And at the center of it all was humanity. The youngest species in the galaxy, providing the knowledge and the technology that saved everyone else. Dr. Rena noticed something else during the mass treatments. The aliens who survived carried human DNA in their cells now. Not much, just the specific sequences needed to make their immune systems adaptive. But it was there, permanent, passed on to their children. "We have changed them forever," she said to Dr. Mina one night as they reviewed treatment statistics. "They changed us too," Mina replied. "We came to this galaxy thinking we had so much to learn from ancient civilizations. We discovered that youth has its own wisdom, that different does not mean inferior, that sometimes the newest voice in the room has the most important thing to say. 6 months after the first successful treatment, the plague was declared defeated. 15 trillion beings had died, an unimaginable tragedy. But civilization had survived. The Galactic Assembly held a ceremony honoring everyone who had fought the plague. Humans and aliens stood together as equals, recognized for their contributions. But the real change was quieter and deeper. The aliens looked at humanity differently now, not with mockery or contempt, but with respect. The humans had proven themselves when it mattered most. And humanity looked at the galaxy differently too. They had left Earth thinking they needed to learn from superior civilizations. They discovered they had knowledge worth sharing, that human adaptability and resilience were not primitive traits to be outgrown, but strengths to be valued. The plague had killed trillions, but it had also killed something else: the old order, the assumption that age meant superiority, the belief that technology was the only measure of advancement. A new galaxy was being born from the ashes of the old, and this time, humanity would help build it. Not as students or subordinates, but as equals and partners. Admiral June stood before the Galactic Assembly, but this time the atmosphere was completely different. The aliens no longer looked at humans with contempt. Now they looked with curiosity, respect, and something that might have been nervousness. "Members of the Assembly," June began, "you granted humanity full access to your technology databases as part of our agreement. We have spent the past 3 months reviewing what you shared with us." He paused, looking around the chamber. "We have found your achievements remarkable. Your engineering is sophisticated. Your science is advanced. Your civilizations have accomplished great things." Several alien delegates nodded, pleased by the acknowledgement. "However," June continued, "we have also found something troubling. Your technology has not advanced significantly in over 1,000 years. Most of your current capabilities were achieved millennia ago. Since then, you have made only minor improvements." The chamber grew quiet. This was not a comfortable topic. "At first, we thought this was because you had reached the natural limits of what was possible," June said. "But then we looked more carefully. You have not reached limits. You have simply stopped trying to push past them." Overlord Thex shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He knew where this was going. June activated a holographic display. "While you imposed restrictions on humanity, we continued working on Project Phoenix. We did not sit quietly and accept our cage. We built, we innovated, we discovered. Today, I want to share what we accomplished." The display showed a ship unlike anything the aliens had seen before. It was sleek, elegant, built with design principles that looked foreign to their eyes. "This is the Phoenix," June announced. "Captain Jiho will demonstrate its capabilities." The hologram shifted to show a live feed. Captain Jiho sat in the command chair of the Phoenix, floating in space near Jupiter. "Beginning demonstration," she said calmly. The Phoenix engaged its engines and simply vanished. Not the slow transition into faster-than-light travel that the aliens used, but instantaneous disappearance. "The Phoenix has just traveled to a point 3 light-years from here," June explained as shocked murmurs filled the chamber. "Travel time was approximately 4 seconds. 4 seconds. To cross a distance that would take alien ships 3 weeks. The Phoenix reappeared in the hologram. "Demonstration complete," Jiho reported. "All systems normal. No strain on the ship or crew." "This is impossible," a Mandorian scientist protested. "Our calculations show that such speeds would tear apart any vessel and kill any crew through gravitational stress." "Your calculations are based on faster-than-light travel," Engineer Bora said, stepping forward. "The Phoenix does not travel faster than light. It manipulates space itself, creating a temporary fold that brings distant points together. The ship moves hardly at all. Space moves around it." "But the energy requirements would be astronomical," another alien scientist objected. "No power source could generate enough energy for such technology." Bora smiled. "No conventional power source, you mean? The Phoenix uses zero-point energy extraction. We pull energy directly from quantum vacuum fluctuations. The universe itself powers the ship." The chamber erupted in disbelief. Zero-point energy was considered theoretical. Most alien scientists believed it was impossible to harness. "The calculations are all here," Bora said, transmitting data to the assembly. "We will share this technology freely as we promised, but there is more." Admiral June gestured, and the hologram changed again. This time it showed weapons systems. The Phoenix is also equipped with defensive capabilities based on principles you declared impossible. He demonstrated plasma weapons that operated at temperatures and efficiencies far beyond alien equivalents. Shield systems that did not just deflect attacks, but absorbed and redirected their energy. Sensor arrays that could detect ships across interstellar distances. "How did you develop all this?" Marshal Kryn asked, her voice a mixture of amazement and concern. "You were confined to your solar system. You had no access to our databases. You had only your own limited technology to build from." "That is precisely why we succeeded," Dr. Rena said, joining the presentation. "We were not limited by your assumptions about what was possible. We did not have thousands of years of scientific tradition telling us what could not be done. We only had problems that needed solving." She brought up a comparison chart. "Your science reached high levels of sophistication very early, but then it stopped growing. You became focused on perfecting what you already knew rather than discovering what you did not know. You created a scientific culture that valued stability over innovation." "Are you saying our science is wrong?" a Carthian delegate asked defensively. "No," Rena replied. "Your science is not wrong. It is just incomplete. And more importantly, it stopped questioning itself. When was the last time any of your species challenged a fundamental assumption about physics? When did you last consider that your understanding might be limited?" The silence in the chamber was profound. Dr. Nari stepped forward with more data. "We have identified at least 40 areas where human theoretical physics has diverged from galactic consensus. In 37 of those areas, we have experimental proof that our theories are correct and yours are incomplete." "This is not an insult," Nari continued quickly as she saw some delegates bristling. "Your theories work. Your technology functions. But you stopped at good enough. We kept asking, what if? And why not?" Admiral June brought the presentation back to a broader view. "We are sharing all of this with the Assembly freely. The Phoenix designs, the zero-point energy extraction, the new weapons, the theoretical physics, everything." "Why?" Overlord Thex asked quietly. "You could keep these secrets. Use your advantage to dominate the galaxy as we once dominated you." "Because that would make us just like you were," June replied. "Hoarding knowledge to maintain power. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to explore it, understand it, grow within it. And we cannot do that alone." He looked around the chamber at all the different species. "You imprisoned us because you feared we would surpass you. That fear was correct. We have surpassed you in many ways. But we also learned from you. We studied your mistakes. We saw how stagnation disguised as perfection led to vulnerability. The plague nearly destroyed you because you stopped adapting," June continued. "You thought you had perfected your immune systems through genetic engineering. You stopped considering that nature might still have lessons to teach. You became so focused on controlling everything that you forgot how to respond when something unexpected happened." Marshal Kryn stood slowly. "You are right," she said simply. "Everything you say is right. We grew comfortable. We grew arrogant. We believed that our age meant we knew everything worth knowing." "It is hard to hear," Overlord Thex added, also standing. "Hard to accept that the species we mocked has surpassed us. But the evidence is undeniable. You have accomplished in decades what we have not accomplished in millennia." One of the oldest delegates, representing a species that had been spacefaring for 20,000 years, spoke in a voice like distant thunder. "This is humbling. Perhaps humiliation is what we needed. We had forgotten what it means to be students, to be humble before the universe's mysteries." "You do not need to be humble before us," Diplomat Sunho said. "You need to be humble before reality, before the unknown, before the possibility that what you think you know might be wrong or incomplete." He smiled slightly. "Humanity is not special. We simply had the advantage of youth and desperation. We had to innovate because we had no other choice. You can do the same. Start questioning again. Start exploring again. Start being willing to be wrong. The chamber was quiet as the aliens absorbed this message. They had come to this meeting expecting humanity to gloat over their superiority. Instead, humanity was offering partnership, knowledge, and a challenge to be better. Admiral June made one final statement. The galaxy stands at a crossroads. You can continue as you have been, comfortable and stagnant. Or you can join us in pushing forward into the unknown, not as teachers and students, but as equals exploring together. We have proven that younger civilizations can contribute knowledge and capabilities that ancient ones lack. Now prove that ancient civilizations can remember how to be young again. Show us that you can change, adapt, and grow. Help us build a galaxy where innovation is celebrated, not feared, where different approaches are valued, not suppressed, where the newest voice and the oldest wisdom work together. The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Assembly would restructure itself completely, ending the systems that had maintained the old order. Technology sharing would become mandatory. Scientific collaboration would be encouraged. Restrictions on innovation would be eliminated. It was a revolution, but a peaceful one. The old giving way to the new, not through violence, but through recognition of necessity. As the session ended, Overlord Thex approached Admiral June privately. "You could have destroyed us," he said quietly. "With your technology, you could have taken revenge for everything we did to you." "Revenge is easy," June replied. "Building something better is hard. We chose hard." Thex nodded slowly. "Your species continues to surprise me. Perhaps that is the real lesson. Never underestimate those who surprise you." 5 years after the plague ended, the galaxy looked completely different. Ships from dozens of species traveled freely through space, no longer confined by ancient restrictions. Research stations operated jointly, with humans and aliens working side by side. The old boundaries, both physical and mental, had fallen. Diplomat Sunho stood in what was once the Galactic Assembly Chamber. It had been redesigned, the old hierarchical platforms replaced with a circular arrangement where all species sat at equal height. He had been elected the first Supreme Chancellor of what was now called the Galactic Union. Not through force or manipulation, but through genuine respect earned over years of honest collaboration. "This session is called to order," Sunho said, looking around at the representatives of 19 species. 7 new civilizations had been contacted and welcomed in the past 5 years, all granted immediate full membership rather than being imprisoned like humanity had been. The first order of business was a progress report on the Collaborative Exploration Initiative. Captain Jiho appeared on the holographic display, transmitting from a ship deep in previously uncharted space. "We have discovered 3 potentially habitable worlds in this sector," she reported. Her crew included humans, Rixians, Mandorians, and Carthians. "We are conducting detailed surveys before moving on. No claims of ownership will be filed. These worlds will be developed cooperatively if settlement is deemed appropriate." It was a new approach to exploration. The old way had been competitive, with each species racing to claim new territories. The new way emphasized cooperation and careful consideration of indigenous life. "Excellent work, Captain," Sunho said. "Continue your mission and stay safe out there." The next report came from Dr. Rena and Dr. Mina, speaking from the Collaborative Research Institute. They had made breakthroughs in medical science that benefited all species. Their latest project involved reversing genetic damage from the plague, helping survivors regain full health. "We have also identified 12 other ancient bioweapons similar to the plague," Dr. Mina reported. "Working with researchers from 6 species, we have developed preventive treatments for all of them. These treatments are being distributed freely to all Union worlds." Overlord Thex, no longer an overlord, but simply Representative Thex, smiled at the news. He had devoted his remaining years to public service, trying to make amends for his past mistakes. His people had forgiven him, recognizing that grief and desperation had driven many of his worst decisions. "This is remarkable progress," he said. "5 years ago, we nearly went extinct. Now we are stronger and more unified than ever in our history." Marshal Kryn, now retired from military service, attended the session as an observer. She spent most of her time working with the memorial station that had been built at the site where the Discovery and its 300 crew members had been killed. She had taken personal responsibility for maintaining it, seeing it as her penance. "The memorial receives thousands of visitors each month," she reported during the public comment period. "People from every species come to pay respects and to remember what happens when fear and arrogance replace wisdom and compassion." Admiral June watched from Earth, where he had returned to retirement. He had refused any political position, preferring to spend his time teaching at the military academy. He trained the next generation of officers with lessons learned from both triumph and tragedy. On Mars, Engineer Bora ran a training program where young engineers from multiple species learned to question assumptions and think creatively. The program had become wildly popular, with waiting lists years long. Dr. Nari had become the Union's chief science advisor, helping coordinate research across all member species. She worked to ensure that diverse approaches to problems were always considered, that no single species' scientific tradition dominated. The changes went deeper than just politics and science. Cultural exchange flourished. Human music could be heard on Rixian worlds. Mandorian art appeared in Earth museums. Children of different species learned each other's languages and histories. It was not perfect. There were still disputes, still misunderstandings, still those who resisted change. But the direction was clear. The galaxy was growing together rather than apart. In the Union Chamber, Sunho called for a vote on the proposed interstellar development guidelines. These rules would govern how new worlds were approached, ensuring that indigenous life was protected and that colonization happened responsibly. The vote was unanimous in favor. 5 years ago, Sunho said as the session neared its end, humanity stood before the Galactic Assembly and was told we were not ready to join the stars. We were mocked, imprisoned, and dismissed. Some of our people were killed to make a point about power and control. The chamber was silent, remembering. Today we stand together as a union, not because humanity conquered you, not because we forced change through violence, but because crisis revealed truth. The plague showed us all that pride and stagnation lead to death, that adaptability and cooperation lead to survival. He paused, his next words careful. We must never forget the cost of these lessons. 15 trillion beings died in the plague. 300 human scientists were murdered for the crime of curiosity. These losses can never be undone. We can only ensure they were not in vain. We build this union as a living memorial to all who died. Every new discovery, every peaceful cooperation, every barrier we break down between species honors their memory. We prove that their deaths led to something better. Representative Thex stood. If I may add something, Chancellor, I was the one who mocked humanity most loudly, who advocated most strongly for your imprisonment, who defended the murder of your scientists as justified enforcement of law. His voice cracked slightly. I cannot undo those actions. I cannot bring back those who died because of my arrogance. But I can work every remaining day of my life to ensure that what happened to humanity never happens to another species, that no civilization is imprisoned for being different or dismissed for being young. Several other representatives stood in agreement. Many of them had voted to restrict humanity, had laughed at human achievements, had considered themselves superior. We all share responsibility for the old ways, said an ancient delegate whose species had ruled the galaxy for millennia. We created systems designed to preserve our power rather than advance knowledge. We elevated stability over growth. We mistook age for wisdom. Humanity's gift to us was not just the cure for the plague, the delegate continued. It was the reminder that youth brings perspective, that different backgrounds lead to different solutions, that the newest voice might see what ancient eyes have overlooked. Sunho nodded gratefully. The galaxy is stronger when all voices are heard, when all approaches are considered, when youth and age work together rather than in opposition. The session ended with a moment of silence for all who had been lost. 300 names were read aloud, the human scientists killed so long ago. Then a selection of names from the plague victims, representing the 15 trillion who could not be individually honored in one lifetime. After the official session, Sunho walked through the corridors of what was now called Unity Station. The walls displayed artwork from member species, a constantly changing exhibition of galactic culture. He stopped at a window overlooking space. Ships moved in the distance, traveling freely. No restrictions, no boundaries, no species imprisoned in their own solar system. His communicator chimed. It was Admiral June calling from Earth. "Watching the ships?" June asked with a knowing smile. "Always," Sunho replied. "Hard to believe this is the same galaxy that locked us away." "It is not the same galaxy," June said. "We changed it. Not through weapons or force, but by refusing to let them break us, by keeping our humanity even when they tried to diminish us." "Do you think it will last?" Sunho asked. "This new order we have built?" June was quiet for a moment. "Nothing lasts forever. Eventually, new challenges will come. New civilizations will join. New problems will arise. But we have built something with a solid foundation. Cooperation, openness, willingness to change. As long as those principles survive, the Union will adapt to whatever comes." "That is what I hope," Sunho said. "That we have learned the right lessons. That we do not become what the Galactic Assembly was, comfortable and stagnant and afraid of change." "Then our job is to ensure each generation remembers," June replied, "why the Union was formed, what was sacrificed to build it, why we must never stop questioning, growing, reaching for more." They talked for a while longer, two old friends who had helped reshape the galaxy. When the call ended, Sunho remained at the window, watching the ships. Somewhere out there, Captain Jiho was exploring unknown space. Dr. Rina and Dr. Mina were pushing the boundaries of medical science. Engineer Bora was teaching the next generation to dream impossible dreams. Dr. Nari was coordinating research that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. And across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, beings of different species worked together, learned together, lived together. The barriers that had separated them for millennia were falling one by one. It had begun with mockery, with imprisonment, with tragedy. But it had led to something beautiful. A galaxy not divided by fear and pride, but united by curiosity and hope. Sunho pressed his hand against the window, feeling the slight vibration of the station around him. This enormous structure, built cooperatively by multiple species, stood as a symbol of what they could accomplish together. The galaxy would never be perfect. There would always be conflicts, misunderstandings, and setbacks. But the direction was set. Forward, together, into whatever future awaited them. Humanity had once been forced to bow before the Galactic Assembly. Now the entire galaxy stood together as equals, all stronger for the change. As Sunho turned to leave, he caught his reflection in the window. Behind him, visible through the glass, Earth hung in the distance. Small, blue, beautiful, the world that had survived imprisonment and emerged stronger. He smiled. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through conquest or domination, but by refusing to give up, refusing to stop growing, refusing to be anything less than what they could be. The galaxy had mocked them once. No one would make that mistake again. And that, Sun Ho thought as he walked away, was the best revenge of all. Not destruction or domination, but transformation. They had not destroyed their enemies. They had turned them into partners. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the station, mysteries waiting to be explored, challenges waiting to be overcome, a future waiting to be built. And for the first time in history, all the species of the galaxy would build it together.